Hello everyone. Today we are going to go through the leg muscle dissection. What you are looking at now is the cat muscle handout that is in the lab folder. This is the list of all of the cat muscles that you will be responsible for. You'll notice that some of them do have some symbols, whether it's an asterisk or a plus sign. If it is a plus sign, that means it is a deep muscle. That means you will have to cut underneath a muscle to be able to see it. If it has one of the star asterisks, that means that it is only found in the cat, not in the human. Now, some of these, you'll notice there are a couple of them with the deltoids, acromiodeltoid, spinodeltoid, and clavodeltoid. As humans, we do not have three separate deltoid muscles. It's just one deltoid altogether. So there are some similarities, just not three separate muscles. Now, for this video, we are going to be doing leg dissection. I'm actually going to break it down into three separate videos. This one will cover the medial thigh area. There will be a second on the lateral thigh area, and then one on the lower leg. Now, I do apologize because I will be moving around. I'm going to try to steady the phone as much as I can. So here we have our cat. We are going to go down to the legs here. We're going to start on the medial thigh area in here. So just to give you kind of an overall view look of the cat here, you can see it is on its back. We are looking at the ventral surface here. And we're going to be looking at the medial thigh area right here. Now you do want to go ahead and try to clean off as much connective tissue as possible so that you can actually see the muscles and the outline of where those muscles are located. So I'm just going to try to pull off as much of that fascia connective tissue from the surface. If you have nails, it works to use your nails to get that off. Now on the ventral surface here, you should recognize or be able to see two big muscles right away on that ventral surface of the inner thigh here. There's one that runs this way. So you can see it running from the lateral part of the thigh to the medial part of the knee. And then you have another one right here that is all medial here on the inside. Now this one here that goes from the lateral thigh to the medial knee, that is called the sartorius. That's the muscle that helps you cross your legs. And this one here is called the gracilis. Now you're going to have to actually cut underneath these two muscles to see the rest of the medial thigh muscles on the list. Okay, but you want to start by visualizing those two, the sartorius and the gracilis. So now in order to cut underneath these two, you can pick either one to start with, whether you're going to start with the sartorius or the gracilis. I'm going to try to leave this open as much as I can so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take my scalpel and just very lightly cut along the edge of the gracilis here. Just lightly. Or you can even start with the sartorius, whichever one you can see better. Now, I'm not going to cut all the way around or all the way through because I'm going to actually kind of pinch and pull up on the muscle a little bit, wiggle it just enough so I can get my finger in that incision that I have made, because that will tell me exactly how thick that muscle is, and it will show me how deep I can cut. So once I have my finger wiggled in underneath here, now you can start to separate this upper gracilis muscle from the lower muscles underneath it. Sometimes you can actually separate a little bit more with your finger without having to use the scalpel. So now I'm just going to kind of continue to cut around that gracilis muscle. Don't cut toward yourself like I'm doing. Again, the cleaner you have your cats, the better you're going to be able to see the division lines between the muscles. You can, for the most part, with the gracilis muscle here, especially on the underside, right here, you can kind of see where the muscle separation is. You can see muscle here, then white connective tissue, and then muscle here. You're just going to outline the muscle, cutting the connective tissue, separating that superficial muscle from the deeper muscles underneath it. And then you're going to leave that attached closer to the pelvic bone, the pelvic area. And I'm just kind of cutting these white strings of connective tissue so that I can see my underlying muscles. Okay, so now once you have that separated, you want to try to use your scalpel the least amount as possible. You want to use your probe to kind of get in there and separate the muscles apart from each other. That way you're not cutting anything. Anything that looks white and stringy is going to be connective tissue. I'm just going to kind of cut this gracilis back a little further, hopefully making it a little easier for you to be able to see what I'm working with here. The more you can use the probe and your fingers, the better it's going to be, because the less chance you have of actually cutting the muscles. All right, so once we have that gracilis pulled back, so this is my gracilis flap here. Now I can pull it back to view the muscles underneath. Now I know it's not listed on the medial thigh area, but you can actually still see it. This is one of the hamstring muscles called the semitendinosus. Then the next one here, the biggest one that you can see, that is the semimembranosus, also another hamstring muscle. Next, you're going to see this muscle here, which kind of looks like two muscles. Some of you might actually try to separate it here. It is a double-headed muscle. That is the adductor femoris. Right here. And those are the two heads. Next to the adductor femoris is going to be a skinny muscle. And you may have to do a little bit more cleaning out here to be able to visualize or see it. The next long skinny muscle that I'm going to try to make visible for you here is called the adductor longus. And that's going to be that muscle right here. And then the next one, working your way up, is called the pectineus muscle. Now this is also a deep muscle, and it is a very small muscle as far as the part of it that we can see. Some of you are going to have a little bit of a hard time trying to locate this one. So I'm just trying to, on the other side of my adductor longus here, trying to get in there so that you can visualize that pectineus muscle. So I'm going to pull this apart, and hopefully you can see this muscle right here, kind of deep in there, that being your pectineus. Again, I realize this is a very difficult muscle to be able to see. I'm going to try to really get in there so you can see it. Open that up. So here is the adductor femoris, the adductor longus, and then push that away here, looking down in there. That is your pectineus. Okay. So from the superficial, you have your gracilis, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, adductor femoris, adductor longus. Those are the main ones. The pectineus is very, very tiny and pretty deep in there, but that's your pectineus. So next we're going to cut underneath the sartorius. I'm just going to do the same thing with the sartorius. Make sure you can see here. That I did with the gracilis. I'm going to find the outline and cut around it. The outline of the sartorius is usually easier to see on the medial side of it. Again, I usually try to get a little sliver started and then get my finger underneath it so I can separate from the muscles underneath it. And the more you pull it up and separate, the more you can visualize the ends of that muscle. Now, I will tell you it is pretty difficult to cut the sartorius from the knee, as there is very thick connective tissue that covers the knee there. So just try your best to cut over that connective tissue there. And you are eventually going to run into the femoral artery and vein in here. You want to try not to cut those. And again, you're going to leave this connected up at the hip. Once you have it started, you should be able to kind of put your fingers in there and separate it from the underlying muscles. What you should be able to see now underneath the sartorius are the quadricep muscles. And we're also going to show you the tensor muscle that is up here as well. All right, so now I have that sartorius as a flap there. Now, before I get into the quadricep muscles, you can see there's still some connective tissue on the surface. You can try to wipe that away if you can. Now, more towards the lateral side here, you're going to be able to see that tensor fasciae latae. It is a pretty short muscle, so it only runs from here to here. The rest of it is very thick connective tissue that connects down to the knee. That's the actual fascia part. Now, its real name is the tensor fasciae latae. I call it the tensor fasciae latae because it's more fun to say latte, but it goes from here to here, and then the rest of it is this nice, big, thick connective tissue band. That connective tissue that helps connect this tensor muscle is actually known as the IT band, or iliotibial tract, that keeps all of these thigh muscles in. See if you can move. So I'm going to try to stick my finger underneath there so that I can separate that tensor muscle from the rest of the quadricep muscles. I'm just trying to move this guy around so you can see what I'm doing. So now that I'm able to kind of put my finger underneath that IT band. So I kind of have my finger underneath that iliotibial tract there. That's going to help expose some of the quadriceps there. So now this whole big chunk that you can put your fingers on, that's the quadriceps. That's actually 4 muscles. Now, there's only 3 listed that you're going to have to know. The vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, and rectus femoris. So now with these, again, you should be able to kind of come in here with your probe to separate them. So the vastus medialis should be the most medial of the 3. Again, I know I'm using my scalpel, but it's going to be better for you to try to use your fingers or the probe to separate them so you're not cutting something you're not supposed to. If you know where you're cutting and you're absolutely sure, then you can use that to cut away the white connective tissue. So now I have this vastus medialis separated here. The vastus lateralis usually separates pretty easily with your fingers. And then you should have the rectus femoris in the middle. What you should have, you can kind of describe as a hot dog in a bun. So you'll see the vastus medialis here, rectus femoris as the hot dog in the middle, and then the vastus lateralis underneath that IT band there. As you look at it this way, you can kind of really get that hot dog in a bun look. So one more kind of review. Initially, on the surface, you have your gracilis and sartorius. Underneath the gracilis, working our way from the bottom, that would be your semitendinosus, semimembranosus, adductor femoris, adductor longus, and then the deep little pectineus. Underneath your sartorius, you'll have that tensor muscle here, short muscle, long connective tissue with that IT band, and then you'll have your quadricep muscles. The vastus medialis here, rectus femoris in the middle, and then the vastus lateralis over here.